Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Peter here. As I said in the latest episode of my macro adventures, I was gonna talk a little bit about why I changed my macro setup from the Canon ATD with the Laowa 25mm ultra macro lens to the 1DX Mark II with the 100mm Canon macro lens. I've made some bullet points, so let's jump straight into it. I tend to change my setups around quite a bit because I need a bit of a challenge, or I need something new to test out. So that was one of the main reasons. This new setup allows me to capture a specimen that is larger than, let's say, a centimeter in length within one frame. The 100mm Canon lens has aperture coupling, which makes it much easier to find the subject within the viewfinder without any light loss, because it stays wide open at f2.8. The perceived sharpness and color contrast with the 100mm macro lens from Canon is slightly better than with the Laowa, but that can be also due to the extremely shallow depth of field. The extremely shallow depth of field makes it really hard to take tech-sharp images unless you start stacking them. The working distance is also slightly longer than with the Laowa, so I don't have to get as close to the subject. It's also a little bit more versatile because it can focus all the way from infinity to 1:1 magnification. The image quality of the 1DX Mark II is also slightly better than with the ATD. This setup also allows for the use of higher ISO range. The pixel pitch of the ATD is only 3.7 micron or micrometer, whereas the 1DX Mark II has 6.58, which helps in low light situations. And with increased ISO sensitivity, the image quality doesn't suffer considerably. With the ATD, I prefer not to go above the ISO range of 320 to, let's say, 400, whereas with the 1DX Mark II, I can use even ISO 800 to 1600, and the image remains effectively noiseless. The 1DX Mark II also has much better video capabilities. Both of them have dual pixel autofocus, but the 1DX Mark II has considerably more autofocus points. The ATD that I'm using right now only shoots full HD, whereas the 1DX Mark II shoots 4K at 1.6 crop factor, which comes quite handy because you get even closer to the subject and it renders tremendous amount of detail. I use the exact same flash for both setups, the 600EX RT from Canon, and the reflector diffuser kit remains the same, with one small difference. I've got these two Bonnet type diffusers. I use the larger one for the Laowa because it fits quite snugly on the lens barrel. I use this smaller one for the Canon. This is the flash with the reflector and one of the diffusion layers. I also have a full review of their products, so you should check out that video if you're interested. I absolutely love this new setup that I've been using for about a month now, but it also has some disadvantages, so let's start covering those as well. If you try to capture extra small species, then this setup has its limitations. For example, if you try to grab a couple of frames of a very small specimen like an aphid nymph, then you can't really capture it in great detail, even with the DCR-250 attached. Also, if you have a chance to take really deep stacks, the Laowa 25mm shows its strength by rendering extreme amount of detail. I use a tripod and the manual macro rail in that scenario. You should check out that review of the newer Pro 4-way macro slider. I think it's a really cool product, very cheap but super efficient. The most significant disadvantage of this setup is its size. It is much more bulky. The Laowa 25mm with the ATD is much more compact. It is easier to carry it around, and it also enables you to get closer to certain subjects in more confined spaces due to its much smaller size. The Laowa 25mm lens also enables you to shoot subjects much closer to the ground because the lens barrel, as you can see, it's super tiny. It's much smaller than the 100mm macro lens from Canon. It's ridiculous. It's about twice the size of it. Anyway, guys, I think I've covered all the practical advantages and disadvantages that I have discovered. I'm definitely not abandoning the Laowa 25mm, but at this point, I'd rather use this much bulkier setup because it's much more versatile. And I also want to focus a little bit more on videography along with taking stills, which I'm sure that you will enjoy in the future. That's for today. I hope you found some pieces of information useful. Thanks again for watching. Please consider subscribing and see you guys in the next one.